Have you been wondering how to offer balanced meals to your baby and exposure to a greater variety of foods? In this video, I'm going to walk you through an example of what a week of creating balanced meals could look like, all while continuing to safely introduce new foods to your baby. If this is our first time meeting, I'm Dr. Belousov. I'm a board-certified pediatrician, and I equip parents with knowledge so they can care for their children with confidence. For those of you who are just getting ready to start solids with your baby, or it's your baby's first week of taking solids, I encourage you to watch my previous video where I walk through an example of what week 1 of solids could look like. It's linked up here. Once your baby is 6 months old and showing all the signs of readiness to safely start solids, I recommend parents try to introduce a new vegetable one day of the week, a new fruit another day, a new carbohydrate food another day, a new protein food another day, and spend the remaining 3 days giving the new allergenic food of the week. We find that children who are exposed to more flavors and textures tend to be less likely to be picky eaters as they get older. Research supports that early introduction of the allergenic foods and repeated exposure can actually decrease the likelihood that the baby will develop an allergy to those foods. Therefore, it's to your baby's advantage to get exposed to as many different foods as possible. I find that many parents don't introduce a wide variety of foods because they don't have a plan and a system in place for how they're going to go about doing this. Of course, there are multiple ways that this can be done. I'm going to give you an example of an approach that I think will make it easier for you to do this. Regardless of whether you plan to spoon feed your baby purees or do baby-led weaning, I'll cover both approaches in this example. Let's say that the first day of the week, you'll be introducing the new vegetable for the week, and let's say that it's going to be broccoli. Once or twice in the day, offer the food to your baby. You can offer the broccoli as a puree that you spoon feed or put some of the puree onto a short-handled spoon, like the Easy Peasy Tiny Spoon, and hand it to your baby to self-feed. If you're doing baby-led weaning and giving your baby finger foods, you can offer broccoli as florets that are about 1/2 to 1 inch wide with some of the stem left on so the baby can easily grab them. You will need to steam, microwave cook, or boil the broccoli to make it soft before offering it to your baby. Babies are capable of bringing things to their mouths with good precision at 6 months and should be given the opportunity to practice feeding themselves even at the onset of starting solids. The sooner you start giving your baby the opportunity to practice self-feeding, the sooner your baby will become an independent eater. Keep in mind that especially in the first several months, food is going to be complementary to the breast milk or formula that the baby is already taking, not a replacement. Babies have to learn how to eat first before they can increase the amount of solids they take. So don't worry if your baby is only willing to take a few bites. A way you can structure the meal is to offer the new food of the day for about the first 10 minutes or so for your baby to explore the new flavor of the day. Then in the second portion of the meal is where you can bring back 1 or 2 foods that your baby already had previous days. So let's say you already introduced your baby to avocado several days prior. Avocados are a great source of healthy fats for your baby's rapidly developing brain and nervous system. Babies need more fat in their diet than we do as adults. To add variety and work towards creating a more balanced diet, you can take fresh avocado and mix it with the broccoli puree and offer that for the next 5 to 10 minutes of the meal. Or you can cut the avocado to about the thickness of an adult pinky finger and 2 to 3 inches in length. Cutting the otherwise slippery foods using a crinkle cutter does make it easier for the baby to grab and hold them. Then offer the avocado strips on the plate along with broccoli florets for your baby to self-feed. Now let's say that on day 2, you will be giving a new fruit of the week, and it's going to be a ripe banana. Give your baby several minutes to explore this new food as a puree or in the form of strips that the baby self-feeds. For the second portion of the meal, you can offer banana again along with the food you introduced the previous day, which was broccoli. You might be thinking, it sounds like so much work to be giving foods from previous days in addition to the new food of the day. Keep in mind that for foods that you have to cook, it's perfectly fine to prepare enough for several days, refrigerate it, and then reheat so you can reintroduce it in the next 2 to 3 days in the second portion of the meal. And if you're giving your baby solids 2 or 3 times a day, it's perfectly fine to give the same 2 or 3 foods for all those meals in that day, instead of feeling like you have to have different foods on the plate for each meal. Or you can have the new food of the day at every meal and alternate the second food that you offer to be another one of the foods that you introduced the previous days. There are many different combinations that you can go with. Let me know that you're finding this information helpful by hitting the thumbs up button below. Now for day 3, let's say you'll be introducing the new carbohydrate food of the week, and it's going to be sweet potato. Allow your baby to spend the first portion of the meal experiencing the new flavor of the day. During the second portion of the meal, you can offer sweet potato again, along with 1 or 2 foods from previous days. The Ezpz Mini Mat works great for this. In one compartment, I have banana puree, broccoli in the other, and sweet potato in the third compartment. Or if you're doing strips of food, you can place all 3 foods into the different compartments. Your baby will get to explore the different flavors and textures of food from 3 different food groups for a more balanced meal. As babies make the transition from breast milk or formula to a predominantly solid food diet, which for most babies happens sometime between 8 to 12 months, carbohydrate foods will become the main energy source for their rapidly growing bodies. And just in case you're wondering what foods are great carbohydrates for your baby to have, this group includes the starchy vegetables and whole grains. The vegetables that fall into this category include sweet potato, white potato, peas, the different squashes, and corn, just to name a few. This group also includes the whole grains like oatmeal, barley, buckwheat, rice, and whole wheat. If you want to know what other foods fall into this category or any of the other 4 food groups, I have a blog post on my website, friendlykiddoc.com. It includes lists of foods that fall into each of the categories. It's linked in the description below if you'd like to check it out. For day 4, let's say you will be giving the new protein food of the week. The protein food group includes meat and plant protein foods. Eggs and fish also fall into the protein group, as well as the allergenic food category. Most babies are born with enough iron stores to last them for the first 4 to 6 months, but after that, to ensure healthy growth and development, it's very important for them to have an iron-rich diet. Since the iron that comes from meat sources is more readily absorbed by our bodies than iron from plant sources, meats are a great source of iron for the baby. Let's say that the new meat for the week is going to be beef. I find that cooking meat in a pressure cooker or a slow cooker is the easiest way to make it tender and soft. However, if you don't have those appliances in the home, you can cook it on the stove or in the oven. It's best to prepare a fattier part of the beef, especially if giving strips of meat for the baby to self-feed. Babies are less likely to choke on fattier, more tender strips of meat than dry strips of meat. If you will be pureeing the beef, you can mix it with breast milk or formula or with one of the foods that you already introduced in previous days, like sweet potatoes. In the first portion of the meal, offer the beef, then during the second portion, offer the beef again, along with 1 or 2 foods from previous days, like sweet potato and broccoli. If you're offering strips of beef, be sure to have them about the thickness of an adult pinky finger or a little thicker and about 2 to 3 inches long. Your baby might just suck on the strips of beef or take small bites using the gums. Either way, your baby will get iron and other nutrients from the juices in the meat. For day 5, 6, and 7, you can introduce the allergenic food of the week. Since babies have a higher risk of reacting to the 8 common allergenic foods than other foods, out of an abundance of caution, offer the same allergenic foods 3 days in a row. Foods that fall into this category include milk, peanut, egg, fish, soy, tree nuts, wheat, and shellfish. Healthcare professionals used to recommend putting off starting the allergenic foods until babies got older, but the most recent research suggests that early exposure to these foods and frequent exposure can actually prevent the development of an allergy to them. Let's say that this week your baby's new allergenic food is going to be eggs. I don't want you to be afraid of introducing this allergenic food. Only about 2% of kids are allergic to eggs. The likelihood that your baby will react is low, so don't delay offering this food, which is a good source of iron and other nutrients. There are different ways that you can prepare eggs for your baby. Hard boiling does make the eggs a little more rubbery in consistency. You can offer it as a puree with the egg white and egg yolk mashed or blended together with some breast milk or formula. You can also fry the egg on a pan. First, add a little oil, or if you're using butter, be sure that your baby has been exposed to a milk product several times already without having an allergic reaction. After breaking the egg into the frying pan, I like to break the yolk and mix it with the egg white. Once it becomes cooked on one side, flip it over to cook the other side all the way through. It can be mashed up or cut into strips. Serve just the eggs to your baby in the first portion of the meal. Then for the second portion of the meal, bring back 1 or 2 foods from the previous days. An example would be to put egg, sweet potato, and broccoli onto the plate and give your baby the opportunity to explore the different flavors and textures of foods from 3 different food groups. By doing an approach like this, not only will you expose your baby to 5 new foods a week, but you'll ensure that they're coming from a variety of different food groups. And by bringing back foods from previous days in the second portion of the meal, after spending the first portion focusing on the new food, you will be able to offer more balanced meals to your baby. Let me know your takeaways, or if you have any questions, enter them in the comment section below. See you in the next video.